Welcome to a bonus episode of Just Another Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. I wanted to join this podcast today to talk about some new upcoming things we've got going on for Just Another Podcast. I recorded last week the first of our new segments with our friend Paul Eaton from Galactic Comic Books and Collectibles. So with that, I wanted to introduce a little bit the new things that we're going to be doing with Just Another Podcast. So starting Wednesday, when the new podcast releases, will be the first new segment called The Pull List. That is, again, with Paul Eaton from Galactic Comics in Bangor. We'll be talking everything has to do with comic books, collectibles, and so on. With the most every episode, I would say the majority of the episodes featured around a top 10 list. This past week and this coming week, being released this week, I should say, is a top 10 list of our favorite female characters based in comic books. Those could be characters that were started in comic books, ended up in feature films, the feature film version of the comic book character, and so on. So we had a great discussion doing our top 10 lists. We had a couple of crossovers, but mostly our own individual characters we like the most. And that will be released on Wednesday, November 4th. And so look forward to that one coming up. So the pull list will come out every 5 or 6 weeks. And on those episodes, we'll be featuring top 10 lists. This week, again, like I said, is the female characters. In future episodes, we'll do things like villains, artists, comic book covers, anything you can think of that has to do with the genre of comic books. The other segment we'll be doing here and there is a thing called Five for Fighting. It's a relation to fighting and hockey. You get a 5-minute penalty for fighting in hockey. Paul is a former hockey player growing up. He's a big hockey fan, so we thought we'd bring that segment into it. And that's where we'll debate two sides of a comic book genre. Could be Marvel versus DC. It could be villains versus heroes. It could be this power versus this power, this comic book versus this comic book, and so on. So we look forward to doing those as well. Those will come out randomly when we decide we have some time to do them. They may be featured in the same poll list of that week, just a segment of it, or maybe its own individual podcast. We'll see coming up in the future. We'll also talk other comic book news and events and things. So it will give us a 5 or 6 week, maybe 7 week, every 5 or 6 or 7 weeks to talk and nerd out about comic books with someone who owns a comic book store, is also a huge comic book fan. So look forward to those coming out as well. The poll list, it's going to be one of our normal podcasts. Just that week will feature comic book related items. Another segment we'll be doing, again, every 5 or 6 or 7 weeks, depending on how they go, will be Hoppy Hour with Adam Morissette of Dirigo Draft Services in Bangor. We'll be talking beer. We'll be talking cider. We'll be talking alcoholic beverages. Obviously, we both work in the beer industry. Adam has worked in the beer industry for a number of years. I'm the general manager of Orono Brewing Company. And so we will talk mostly beer. This is one of the 3 segments that we'll be doing, that we'll be not doing top 10 lists. But we will be talking about styles of beer. We'll talk about holiday beers and seasonal beers. We'll talk craft ciders. We'll talk the pioneers of the craft beer industry. The first episode will be coming out in a couple of weeks, and that one will be featured around the COVID pandemic and what it's done to the craft beer industry and what it will look like in the future and so on. So Adam Morissette will be joining us every couple of weeks, I should say, to talk Hoppy Hour, and that will be based around the adult beverage industry, mostly centered around craft beer. So look for that one. Again, that one will have one of those or 2 of those before the end of the year. But again, 5, 6, 7 weeks will be one of those as well. And then the last of the 3 new segments is with my friend Josh Moulton of Queen City Cinema Club. We will be doing movie night. And it's just a name. We're not watching movies together. We're not watching them at night. The podcast will release in the morning like normal. But it'll be very similar to the poll list, where it's top 10 lists based on, I don't know, the first one we're going to be doing is based on Christmas movies that will come out just before Thanksgiving. So it gives you enough time to listen or watch the podcast and then pick your decisions to watch the movies this winter and Christmas season. We'll be doing ones on horror. We'll be doing like comedy, comic book movies, and other genres as well. But we also will do top 10 lists on directors, actors, and actresses, many, 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 many more. We also might do the 5 for Fighting segment in this one as well, where we debate comedies versus action, or this actor versus this actor, or the original versus the reboot, or something like that. But it will morph as it goes along, but it'll be based around movies, TV, entertainment, Those will be the nights for movie night episodes. Josh from Queen City Cinema Club will be joining us for that, as well as other movie news and events, obviously. So those are the three things. We've got the poll list, happy hour, and movie night. Each featured a guest appearance of everybody from Paul Eaton, Adam Morissette, and Josh Moulton. They won't be back to back to back. They'll be sporadically put between the regular guests that we've been normally having. But I thought, some rigid guests and subjects would be kind of cool. I'm kind of throwing it back to when I was starting this podcast. We're 25 episodes in this week, and I wanted to talk comic books. I wanted to talk beer. I wanted to talk movies. I wanted to talk basketball. Those are all subjects and things that I love talking about and watching. So why not talk about them? Why not do something that I want to do? This is my podcast. And so this way I could actually have a set, schedule and not trying to find a new guest for those subjects. Bring the same subjects back or guests back, talk the same subjects, but sporadically put them out there and, throwing in other guests as well. So look forward to the next couple of weeks of guests. We have guests from the music industry. I have guests from the beer industry. My dad is returning around Christmas for a special episode. And so we have some fun things coming up before the end of 2020. Our last episode of season 2 in 2020 will be right before Christmas. And then we'll start up again mid-January with season 3. And I've got some fun big guests lined up for season 3 that I cannot wait to show everybody out there and talk to and enjoy this experience. So that's it. The poll list, happy hour, movie night coming at you soon. The first episode comes out Wednesday with Paul Eaton from Galactic Comics to do the poll list, our favorite female characters in comic books. And so look forward to that one coming out. Lastly, as I'm doing this small 10-minute, 15-minute podcast to talk about the news subjects. So this will come out today, Monday, November 2nd. Tomorrow, Tuesday, November 3rd, is voting day. This election is massively important to this country. I will not tell you who to vote for or what to vote for. I will tell you to vote. As an American citizen, you have the right to vote, and you should exercise that right. So if you haven't already voted, please head to your local municipality and find out where you can vote. Register to vote on the day. This is Maine. If you live in Maine and you're listening to this podcast, Maine, you can register to vote on the day of the election. So not registering to vote is not an excuse. You can do it at the polls. If you don't feel safe, please, figure out a way to do it. Drop off your ballot. Please vote in this election. It's very important. That includes all the way down to your local government, all the way up to the President of the United States. Another thing, in Maine, we have seen a spike in cases for COVID-19, as well as other places in this country as well. I live in Maine, so I'm focused on Maine. Stay safe, mask up, wash hands, keep your distance from people. Don't hang out with the normal people you hang out with. Try to hunker down for a couple of weeks. Let's curve this back in the right direction in Maine. It's very important for us to curb this disease, this illness, and it's very important to get back to normal. But in order to do that, you need to mask up, wash your hands, and keep your distance. That's the only way we're going to do this, people. So please, please, please stay safe, mask up, wash your hands, and keep your distance. Now, lastly, I really hope that this podcast can bring a beacon of light during this dark winter we're going to have ahead of us. This disease will not be going away. This illness will not be going away. We'll be having this year. Please enjoy my experience. If you have any idea of who guests you want and so on, please get at me. Justin at justanotherpodcast.com, or you can tag us on Facebook or Instagram. At The Great Justin on Instagram is my personal Instagram. Follow me. Find out what we want from this podcast. You guys are the ones listening to it. Yes, I'm the one recording it and doing all the work, but you guys are the one listening to it. So if you have any ideas for guests, if you want to be a guest, please contact me at The Great Justin on Instagram. Find me on Facebook or email me at justin@justanotherpodcast.com. So to recap, the poll list coming out this week for the first time. In a couple of weeks, we'll have the happy hour with Adam Morissette from Dirigo Draft Services. And a couple of weeks after that, we'll have movie night with Josh Moulton from Queen City Cinema Club. Thank you to those 3 people for coming on a regular basis and doing this. I cannot wait for you guys to hear them. The one we did this week with the poll list with Paul is going to be amazing, so listen to it. Also, vote and keep safe. Mask up, wash your hands, keep your distance. Thank you very much for listening to Just Another Podcast. This has been another bonus episode, more of a news and update episode. But thank you. I'm Justin Soderberg. Follow me on Instagram at The Great Justin, or Twitter, JM Soderberg. Thanks a lot, guys. Enjoy, and look forward to the episode coming out Wednesday. Peace.